Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the AgRobotics Working Group for inviting me for this presentation. And what I did here is that I tried to structure this as a kind of a tutorial so that we can actually share ideas and what we did and why we did it and stuff like that. And uh, we can always learn from feedback to do some things better. So today, what I'm going to talk about is a project that started 3 years ago. The project officially ended last summer, but we continued to work with the data we have after that. And on Wednesday, there was actually a demonstration of the prototype itself. So the Haggerty AgRobotics is continuing, and they are the one who is actually commercializing this work, this technology. So they are continuing to build up the in terms of clients and testing and stuff like that. So weed scouting in Lima beans field, how did it, what's the problem, and who cares about it? Before I continue, I would like to acknowledge here the partners. Of course, Haggerty AgRobotics. Jason is the one who worked with us. He's no longer with Haggerty, but and then from Norterra, Dan Oliver. And the project was funded by Ontario Innovation Center as well as Haggerty. I had one master's student in addition to two research staff working on this. And most recently, another master's student has worked on the data. So what is the problem here? The problem is that there are several weeds, and particularly pigweed, nightshade, growing in Ontario, very challenging to actually manage. Norterra teamed with Haggerty to find a solution. They are a major lima beans grower, okay? Right now, Norterra spray herbicides to actually control the weed growth. How do they estimate the rate and the composition of the herbicide? Well, they just do a scout, just walk in the field. They've got a 100-acre field, just take a walk around and stuff like that. It's probably even less than 1% or 0.5% of the field is being scouted, and then they decide based on that. And we will see later on that this may actually be completely not representative of what the field actually contains. So what is the solution here? So we decided to, okay, for getting ahead of myself. So what are the specific weeds that Norterra was focusing on? Pigweed, nightshade, and horse nettle. Lamb's quarter also in the field, but not as important as these three. And pigweed and nightshade specifically has a problem because they are very similar at an early stage. And that's when you would like to actually detect weeds at an early stage. So the solution is to do 100% scouting integrated with a sprayer. Ideally, of course, it needs to be a variable sprayer, okay, so that you can actually, based on the scouting results, you can actually adjust the sprayer. So the first step is to scan the field. And I picked this this image here specifically because it shows shadow, and that does exist. Okay, so you cannot really start from images in the lab that are pristine, that are clear. This is this is the actual environment that you have to deal with. And shadows, you have to take care of them. And then after that, we process these images to detect objects. And I want to clarify here is that in the beginning, when I looked at this problem, I thought, okay, they would like to know the weed pressure, certain spots in the field. No, they want to actually count the weeds, the instances. So the problem from a machine learning perspective changes from being just a semantic segmentation to something in which we call instance detection. Okay, so you have to actually detect the objects. And then you create a density map that actually needs to be integrated with the spray. So let's dive deeper a little bit. So this is the first thing. We scan the field. We use a RTK GPS to actually know where exactly we are. And the tractor can move with any speed as long as we end up with non-blurry images. Now, can we actually take care of blurriness if the tractor is moving faster? And the answer is yes, if we increase our shutter speed for the cameras. But when you increase the shutter speed, you reduce the amount of light. Reduce the amount of light you end up with. So better that the tractor move slowly, and we will see that slowly is not necessarily bad, and then take good images. And you record all of this images in a structured way, including the field itself and the time and so on. This is what we designed, a broom, 5 cameras. In the beginning, we also used a camera that has both RGB and near infrared, 2 channels, all on the same optical lens. But the near infrared did not turn out to be useful in this particular application. Of course, this is not really multispectral. I mean, yes, you have 2 channels, but that's all what it is. After a number of trials, we could actually get good images, 15 frames per second, and also traveling 12 kilometers an hour. Okay, then after you collect the data, okay, you do the machine learning processing. And I will talk about this in details in a minute. And that's the output that you get, okay? And you can see this from images that we are not talking here about big weeds. We're talking about at an early stage. After that, you build the map, the density map, which you then send it to your sprayer, and then the sprayer acts upon that. That's basically what happens. All right. So let's dig. Let me move to. So you will have in the map specific weeds. So pigweed, lamb's quarter, or lima bean, of course, is your crop. So let's look at the implementation and some of the results. This table shows you the number of images that were labeled. So we collected over 3 years, over 3 summers to be exact, more than 1 million images, but we only labeled 47,000 of them, which is a lot. A lot of effort went into this. And we started in 2023. The project actually started in July 2023. We were in the field before that. We knew that we got the funding, but the university takes a little bit of time to open accounts and whatnot, and we couldn't wait. So we got in the field and we started to collect data. Very basic prototype, okay? So that's in 2023, and we labeled some of this data, build a model, and then in 2024, we went back to the field now with a proper design prototype, collected more data, labeled more data, adjusted the model, and then in 2025, we went to the field. That's the last year, and we tested and also collected more data. And there is a lot of details that I'm not including in this table because we collected data from different fields at different times. We actually collected data from very early on in the season and then later on in the season. We collected before spraying and after spraying. There's a lot of details but I'm giving you the big picture here. And there are important lessons that I want to emphasize here is that, first of all, there is a huge imbalance between the target weeds. So you can see 11,000 pigweed, you can see nightshade is just 400. This causes a problem when you are developing a model based on the data, because after a while, the model will tend to recognize the nightshades as pigweeds because there's just too many examples here versus here, okay? In some other instances, you just don't have any. You just don't have any, okay? And the other thing that's important here is that these are labeled. Who labeled them? Well, multiple people, including scouts, Norterra scouts that are looking at images and labeling them. And we discovered through all of these processes that is that you can have discrepancy between the laborer, the people doing the labeling or notation. And is this unique to this problem? No, this actually is common. So you need to be careful about it. The 2025, we used a different technique for ground truthing, in which the labeling is done in the field. So the person will actually scan, identify areas that there might be some weeds, go to these areas, label the weed on the spot in the field, and then take images. So these are field ground truth, okay? Different than these where the labeling is done in the images. And you will see why this is important. Now let's look at the architecture. And you will see in the architecture that there are 3 stages. The first stage is to detect whether it's a lima bean or a weed. Second stage, okay, if it's a weed, what type of a weed? The third stage is specific for pigweed and nightshade because they are very similar. And Norterra wanted the count of that. It was important for them. So we put this in 3 stages. So one person might ask, why just not have what's called an end-to-end? Bring in an image here, get an output here that has the weeds and the lima beans. One model, black box, put in the image, get the output. So this is common. This is common in academia particularly. But this is bad engineering. First of all, we tried that and we didn't get better results than what I'm going to show you. But the other thing is that when you have everything in a one model, maintenance becomes a problem. Because what happens if something is not working well? What happens when one of the weeds is not doing better, good recognition, okay, accuracy? Then what happens? It's all in one big box. So from an engineering perspective, from a maintenance perspective, it's better that you divide this into a pipeline stages in which you can actually work on optimizing one stage without actually impacting the other stages. And you can detect where the problem is and stuff like that. And that is very important. So that's the architecture. The architecture is using AI, like all of these are AI models, deep learning models, okay? So it's not like we are not using that, but the way we are designing the architecture is to actually enable maintenance, and this will give you better results. So here is the first set of results. I will talk about different sets of results here, but here's the first set of results. First stage, which is basically say, is it a lima bean or a weed? And the colors here is what data set was involved. So we collected 2023, 2024, 2025. So the first thing is that we are going to train on this. Of course, when we are talking about results, we're always talking about testing results. But these are the training sets, okay? So here is the test data set. It's the in-field ground truth data in 2025. That's what we are testing against, okay? But the training is from these data sets. So if we just stopped at the 2023, 2024, then in terms of precision, that's what you are getting. In terms of recall, that's what you are getting. So what is the precision and what's the recall? The precision is telling you, okay, how many of these recognized as lima bean is actually lima bean, not false positives, not weeds recognized as lima beans. How many of those recognized as weeds are actually lima beans? So when you're talking about 35%, that's so a lot of the weeds recognized as weeds are actually false positives. They are lima beans. The recall is the false negatives. Am I missing any lima bean or am I missing any weed recognized as lima bean? So when you think about it, the recall and the precision is actually kind of fighting each other, because if you would like to have a system that is hypersensitive to any weed, so that recall is almost like 100% hypersensitive, then guess what will happen? It will actually have a lot of false positive here because it will be hypersensitive, okay? So you'll end up with a lot of the lima beans recognized as weeds because you don't want to miss any weed. And vice versa. If you would like to be extra precise, then you are going to miss, because anything that will not look like really, surely a weed, you're going to say it's a lima bean. Okay. So the adjusting the learning so that it actually balances, this is important. Okay. Of course, you would like to have both. You would like to have a precise system and also a system that does not miss any instances. So let's move on. Before moving on, so this is if 2023 and 2024 is only used. But then when we add the 2025 data set that was actually in-field ground truth, then the numbers jump up significantly, okay? And you can see here that we are starting to see on the recall for the weeds 73%, 83%, 88% on the lima bean, almost 80% here. So things improve quite a bit when you add the 2025. Now, this is stage one. Stage two, now we detected that there is a weed. What type of a weed is it? The same phenomena happens. If we just stuck with 23 and 24, that's not enough. Then if you add the 2025, or if you combine everything, then results are improving quite a bit. And we are talking here still around, like in terms of precision, 90%. However, lamb's quarter, which has very few instances, still lower. Horse nettle slightly lower than pigweed or nightshade. On the recall, again, we have some good results. Okay, pigweed, nightshade, or horse nettle, but not so good results when it comes to lamb's quarter. The third stage is that we would like to actually separate, is it pigweed or nightshade? And this third stage, we didn't have enough of nightshade, so we use actually external data set that will actually have images of nightshade in the lab. So these are really pristine images. But we said that's the only thing we've got, so why don't you use it? So we used it. And if we just use the external and we tested on the 2025 in ground truth, results are really not good for nightshade. And for the recall, the same thing for pigweed or nightshade. When we add the external and the 25 to our own data, collected ground truth in the field, results are improving. Not to the extent we wanted to see, but they are improving. And this is then the latest, the final outcome. This is what is sent to the sprayer. Okay. And these are real fields, real scanning. Okay. And that's sent to the array. Now, what you are going to notice here is that if Norterra came in the beginning of the season, and instead of they walked in this area, for example, I don't know, you see my laser pointer, okay? They walked into this area. They might think is that, oh, this field doesn't have a lot of pigweed. If they walked in this area, they might come and say, oh, this field is full of pigweeds. The reality is more complex. There are areas that has a higher pressure of pigweeds. There are areas that has no pigweeds. So that just gives you an idea about what is the value of 100% scouting. Now, can we improve these results? So these results as of fall of 2025. And then we've got the data set, and then a new student started their work. They were working on a different project, but I said, you know what, you've got this data set. Why did you try something new? So 2025, we found this paper, and this is a transformer architecture, different than the models we used before, and specifically for wheat. So we said, okay, well, let's try it. Now we tried an end-to-end, give us poorer results with this architecture. Okay. So what we did is that we said, no, we are going to adapt the architecture, the model, to our own design. So we are going to put the model in the 3 stages. And we started to get results. The first stage was never really a problem. We already had very good results in the first stage. Okay. But we said we'll try it anyway. So that's the first stage. That's still using YOLO V9. But then that's now the second stage. And I'm giving you here a summary of the results. This is the old architecture as of fall of 2025. This is now when we apply weed swing on this problem. And you're going to see is that in some situation, the performance is comparable. Lamb's quarter, which has few instances, performance has improved quite a bit, okay? Recall, kind of the same thing. Lamb score is actually worse here in the recall. Okay, so it's compatible. Okay, but look what happened here. This is the third stage, and this is for nightshade. This is where we had, again, lower instances, and the performance is significantly improved, particularly in the recall. Okay, so it turns out that this is actually a good uh, um, a good addition to the model. Okay, with the caveat that an end-to-end, if you just took the entire model as is and just apply it, you're not going to get these results. You have to still compartmentalize, do you do the multiple steps. Uh, so this is the final, this is a summary of everything here. And this is actually, these results are about 4 weeks old. Okay. Um, so almost 98% in the first stage and 98% in the second stage, and both on the precision and the recall. Now, let me talk about things from a practical perspective. So we are talking about 40,000 data points. We are talking about improvement, 2023, 2024, 2025. 40,000 data points to label it. That's a lot of time. That's expensive. How many data points do you need? And do you need to keep collecting data points forever and ever? Like, when do you know to stop? Now, if you got results like 99% or something like this from the beginning, sure, you're done. Okay. But the environment keeps changing. Okay, you might have different fields, you might have different environmental condition, you might have different weeds coming up and stuff like this. How many data points do you need actually? So we did this study. On the 2025 data that we got, what we did is that we started to add some of this data. In the beginning, 10%, and then 25%, and then 50%, and then 70%, and then 100% to the training data. And then we evaluate the model. And it turns out that from 0%, 2025, it's not involved at all. You get accuracy of 56%. You add just 10% of that, or 347, you actually improved significantly, almost 20% addition. You add 25%, when that improvement now start to slow down, 5% more. And then if you add another 25%, doubling that now started. And you can see here that the improvement is very, very small. So that tells you is that actually you don't need a lot of data, okay, to improve significant yield results, but you need good quality data. So the important issue here is twofold. One, if you are using a data-driven architecture, you need very good quality data. These data points, these 2025, are field ground truth. Okay. And once you add them to the pool of data that you've got, the improvement is significant, but you don't need a lot. Okay. So that's a study that we did to actually see where to stop. And then another thing we did is that there is a technique in terms of increasing the number of data points, which is basically augmentation. You do all kinds of operations on the images, adding, some noise, flipping the images, rotation, stuff like that. And in many ways, they do improve the results, but not by a lot, like between 23 and 24, not a whole lot, even if you have augmentation. But when you add all seasons, 23, 25, everything, and then you also do augmentation, then you have about four percentage point improvement. Augmentation is it's a standard technique to increase the number of data, specifically when you have imbalance in terms of classes. So okay, let me take a few minutes here to talk now about some concluding things. First of all, this is a data-driven system. This is you collect the data, you build the model, and then you improve it. The key point here is that the data has to be good data. Good data means you register the data accurately and you do proper notation of the data. You might think that this is easy to do a proper notation, but the reality is across different projects I worked on, both in agriculture and in industry, is that different people might label the data differently. And that makes it very difficult to limit the number. Look, if you collected 1 million data points, all of these discrepancies is going to be filtered out by the model. Well, you don't have that time. The second thing is that if you are going to commission a system in the field that is a data-driven system, then you have to also, with it, have a mechanism of how you're going to be able to collect and ground truth the data. And there are techniques that will allow you to do that automatically, okay? Like for an example, you can scan an area, okay? Do a scan, do results of that scan, and then after that, when the weeds have grown, maybe 6 weeks after that, weeds have grown, which is a whole lot easier to recognize the weed. Then you do another scan, and then you compare between the two. And then you will automatically label the first instance. Remember, you always would like to detect weeds at the earliest possible stage, okay? The other thing I would like to say is that people talk a lot about autonomous systems, okay? And the problem with this is that an autonomous system for weeding, you end up with that system is very expensive, so high capex, okay, and that leads to low adoption. So what I presented to you today is something that builds on the existing infrastructure of the grower. The grower have a sprayer. It would be better if the sprayer has variable nozzles, right? And then you do a scan in a couple of hours. You can have like 100 acre in a couple of hours, process all of these images in another couple of hours, then you are ready to spray. And that doesn't have a high capex. That gives you massive amount of data points, very precise. You're talking about 1 meter by one square meter, and it will help the grower know better their field. And after year, you have now massive repository of data points that you can actually learn from it how to improve your yield. Okay, so there is a secondary use of all of this data that can come beyond the issue about weed control. The other point I would like to make here is that it's very important is that you design a system that fit with the existing infrastructure, because that is very difficult to change the infrastructure. What this project gave is very what I call micro precision data, 1 meter by 1 meter. Is it useful? Is that something that would actually lead to more sustainable agriculture. We have not developed this yet. And we are focusing only on the wheat, but maybe there is another gold mine there that needs to be looked at, and we can get some data from. I think that people are started to put some questions here. Can your model work with a multispectral camera, or it has the same type of camera used in the training, or at nightshade and pigweed only in the model? Did you collect data for the whole field season or from planting to a certain growth development stage? Okay, for the first one here, as I said before, the sensors we used were RGB cameras. Now, we did use a camera that has both a sensor for RGB and for near infrared, two channels, and they are both going through the same optical lens. So there's no registration issues. And we did not notice in this particular application a specific marker in the near infrared channels. Okay. These are just two channels, so we need to be very careful about when we say multispectral. So multispectral, you're going to have multiple channels. Okay, hyperspectral, of course, is huge. Would using a hyperspectral camera yield better results? Of course, it could be. I mean, if you can actually identify a marker for nightshade in a specific channel, wow, your algorithm becomes just a thresholding algorithm. But then the camera itself is expensive. And we've got here 5 cameras in order for us to scan this whole thing in 2 hours. So this system is designed for practicality, not just science. And we need to be careful about coming and saying that. But if you will tell me, is that a hyperspectral camera or hyperspectral will do as well? Sure, I would not disagree, but we have not looked at this because it's so expensive. And the only thing we looked at is the near infrared, and it did not give us good result. Why nightshade and pigweed only in the model? No, we are looking at 4 types of weeds. The pigweed and the nightshade are in the last stage because they are so similar at this growth stage. And we needed to identify them. But we also previously identified lamb's quarter and horse nettle, okay? So it's not only pigweed and nightshade. And why only these 4 weeds? Because that's what Norterra cared about. Did you collect data for the whole field season or from planting to a certain growth development stage? No, we went to the fields that Norterra were planting, and we collected data from these fields. These are commercial fields. I think the first season, we also had planting in the Elora research station, okay? But 2024, 2025 data were all commercial. And that and that created additional complexity because, of course, planting is also subject to weather and stuff like that. When do you go to the field and whatnot? But these data were all collecting right there from the fields that were planted commercially. Okay, I have one final slide here. And this is just a plug of what other projects we have in the lab. So we have an ongoing project related to harvesting tomato and strawberry, and that project is actually being tested now in Leamington in the BioPhi facility. We have another project with the University of Waterloo, digital twin of greenhouses plants, so that we are able to actually predict the impact of different environmental conditions, stuff like this on growth stage. We did a project related to fire blight in tender flute. again, scanning, um, to try to actually predict earlier on and to have a better management. Um, we have a project that ended, and now it is in commercialization stage where you can do what's called a digital library of uh, nurseries, three nurseries, okay, that will collect data about trunk size, height, etc. And these are all projects in the agriculture, but we also have projects related to automotive. Guelph is actually a city that has 30% of workforce is in manufacturing. Um, so we've worked with the major automotive companies here, Linamar, Magna, and in many ways we either looking at um, robotic bin picking, for example, and also defect detection. Most of the time, the project ends with a TRL 6 to 7. So we leave it to our partners to actually take it to the next stage of commercialization or usage. One of the projects ended with a prototype that is actually on the production line at Linamar. And that's a research project, but the outcome is there. Of course, as a university, we do not sell a product, we transfer knowledge. So my work with Haggerty AgRobotics was a good model of this because they are a very good receptor that will take the technology and move it to the next stage. Thank you, and I hope I didn't take too much time.
Oh, perfect. We're just going to open it up to a couple questions if you want to close your screen. And I
Okay.
apologize for my technical difficulties at the beginning of the call. Thanks, Joe, for introducing Medhat as well. Cesar, I see you have your hand up if you want to come off mute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. Yeah, I was curious about what resolution you have in terms of millimeters per pixel.
I know the answer, but I don't remember it now. Of course, the resolution is dependent on the distance from the camera and the feature size. So this is something you do very early on when you're designing your vision system. So if you send me an email, I will get back to you with the answer. But
Perfect.
we did this very early on in the beginning when we were looking at that.
Somebody in the chat mentioned, I recall a note annotating 512
Pixels.
pixels.
So Wissam was a Master of Engineering student, and he probably remember better. 512 pixels per millimeter, Wissam? I don't think so.
That would be too
I think,
much. Yeah.
yeah.
If
I
you
will
want to
get
drop
back to you.
your, yeah,
I will get back to you. It is an important parameter that has to be done at the beginning, but it also dependent on the feature size. So think about it this way: if you are trying to detect a defect on a part that is, you know that the defect is going to be like 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, then that's fine. Then you can talk about the number of pixels. But what is the feature size when you're trying to detect weeds? Because you don't know what is the distinguishing feature in every weed size is going to be. So you're going to have to try different resolution, different heights of the cameras, different size of the cameras. Of course, when you're also looking at the cameras in the field, you have to worry about light sensitivity. If you have a very sunny day, you might actually blur the entire sensor. So things like that. But I know the answer, but it just I don't remember it now.
Okay, and then there's another comment in the chat. Where can I find more information about the harvesting of greenhouse tomato and strawberry project?
Me, send me
Okay.
an email. I will send you. And if you'd like to have a demo, I have no problem. We are testing right now in the field on a regular basis. So I will let you know when is the next time to test, and then we can organize a demo for this.
Perfect. If you want to drop your email in the chat as well, so people can reach out afterwards as well, that'd be great. Um, Another comment, ID of weeds at early stage is important. You captured images at early growth stage. Did you continue capturing the weeds as they grew or stopped at a particular growth stage?
Okay, so we captured uh, at the beginning of the season, and then here's what this is very interesting. So here's what Norterra wanted. They wanted actually the weed control issue is important for them for post-harvest processing because they have to separate the lima beans from the weeds. So they wanted to have scanning twice in the season, one in the early stage and one in the later stage in August before the harvest. They are different. They are different because by the time you are in August, everything is a big jungle. The weeds and the plants are all there. So in August, you might be looking at semantic segmentation. You just want to have density estimation. While in May, early June, you actually want to capture the weeds. So we did have images 3 times in the season. We did have sometime in 2024 twice in the season. But all of the results that I'm showing right now is based on that first capture in the beginning of the season.
Okay, Nevin, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Moussa, for the presentation. I was intrigued by the listing of additional projects that you have under development that you aim to get to TRL 6 or 7. Question is, regarding those projects, do you have other partners such as Haggerty AgRobotics or other entities that you're going to work with to further develop those and commercialize those? I'm just wondering about all the investment and research and how that's getting translated to real value for producers.
Yes. So the harvesting project, we are coming closer now to looking at commercialization opportunities. Harvesting is one of the most difficult tasks, and it's not just that you have to do the harvesting, but you also have to do the harvesting with a cycle time that is competitive with the human labor. So we are testing right now, again, validating the cycle time, validating the accuracy of the harvesting, and then moving on to commercialization. Commercialization of physical AI systems like robotics is a long road and needs a lot of investment. So we are going to be looking at that. At this stage, harvesting was supported throughout different years, either from OMAFA or from Agri and Agri-Food Canada, previous CAP projects and stuff like that. We work directly with growers in the field. So all of our testing, all of our data comes from commercial greenhouses. So we have worked with different commercial greenhouses in Leamington, and right now even the BioFi facility is actually set up by industrial greenhouses. So it's not a pie in the sky, but we have to actually meet certain performance metrics before we can actually say this technology is ready. Of course, when we say it's ready, it is still needs a lot of engineering to add the robustness that is expected in an industrial product. So right now but we just have to improve that. The digital twin is at this stage is a more fundamental research project. So we are collecting data. Our colleagues at Waterloo Chemical Engineering are actually developing the plant model, and then we are looking at how the data and the plant model are moving together. The target is still scientific knowledge at this point. A lot of the other projects have, like the automotive defect detection, was all done with industrial partners. And as I said, one of them is actually resulted in a machine that is in the actual production. So, and the way we work with industry is that we say, look, we are into transferring of technology. We are not going to sell you a product. We don't have a 1-800 number that you call after, when something stops. So you have to have a person that will receive this technology and maintain it. So the answer to your question is we always work with partners. Like we always have a partner, and whether this partner is a receptor or whether this partner is an end user who can then becomes also a receptor.
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to cut off the questions right there, just because we're almost at time. Thank you for sharing the research that you did, and maybe next week, Chuck can kind of talk a little bit about the commercialization side of it as well. I just want to introduce our two new members quickly before I hand it over to Dean for an update that he requested as well. So the first one is Sarah Lee from IDC. I don't believe she is on today. And then the second one is Nicola Dmitriev from National Research Council of Canada. And I thought I saw them earlier. So if you just want to come online or on camera and introduce yourself quickly before I hand it over to Dean.
Hello, the camera is not working, but I think the speaker is working. So yeah, I'm really glad I joined this group. I have industrial experience in machine vision and robotics, so I'm really glad to see that Professor Moussa is working on this innovative project. So I'll be attending every Friday now.
Perfect. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, thank you. So like I said, we had two new members this week. Thank you for everybody for attending the demo day earlier this week as well. It was a great day. The weather was perfect, a little windy, but it was great. Dean Osmond from Boundless Consulting, he just asked for 2 minutes to give a couple updates on his end. So Dean, I'm going to hand it over to you if you want to fill the next 2 minutes there.
Sure. Thanks, Ashley. So as Ashley mentioned, I'm Dean Osmond. I'm the Director of Growth and Partnerships, representing both Boundless Accelerator and Boundless Business Consulting. Couple of updates from the Boundless Accelerator side. And for those of you who aren't familiar, we are part of the Regional Innovation Center Network, working with early stage companies, providing support, guidance, mentorship to really help them accelerate their growth. Two important updates that I wanted to share. Our Rise Up program is fully up and running right now, and we're in intake mode. Rise Up is designed for women founders, women leaders, or women-led companies that are looking for scale-up opportunities. It is national in scope, so it is not geographically limited to Ontario. The only caveat is that we are looking for companies that are generating already in revenue generation mode, so 200,000 and up, and has to be an innovative product or service that they are developing. So obviously a great fit for this group. The overall program would inject the equivalent of $12,000 to $15,000 worth of services and mentorship into that or into any organization that partakes in it. The other update is we have officially relaunched our Quantum Drive program. Quantum Drive is a investor and pitch readiness program designed for companies that will be looking for either some form of investment or Series A, Series B funding within the next 12 to 18 months. So it will be an intensive program starting in August, running through to April of 2027. Starting with the investment readiness side, ensuring that companies fully understand their numbers, being able to defend, what their value prop is, as well as defend what their ask is when they're in front of investors, and then transition that into the pitch portion of it. We've all seen some great pitches. We've all seen some bad pitches. So we want to ensure that those organizations have their pitches very polished and can very easily articulate what they're looking to do. That will culminate in a pitch competition in April of 2027, where we'll have a first prize of $10,000 and two secondary prizes of $5,000 each for the winners of that competition. Part of the announcement of the Quantum Drive is also part of the ask, where we will be going out to market looking for sponsors for not only the prize component, but also hosting the event. And we will also be looking for judges to help with the overall pitch competition. Joe, I'm not going to single you out, but I may be knocking on your door soon. So just wanted to share that with the group. So if anyone is interested in either of those programs, please reach out to me and we'll connect you appropriately.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And if you want to just send us an email with a couple of those updates, especially the funding part 2, we'll be able to promote that as well in the agenda.
Perfect. Will do.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we're a little bit over time. So we're gonna wrap for today. Thank you everybody for
August
attending.
18th, register.
Yes. Our next demo day for Innovation Farms Ontario is August 18th. The link is in the agenda. So please do register and share it as well on your networks. We would appreciate that. So we will wrap up and we'll meet again next Friday. Okay, thank you, everybody.